Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It is Professor Hamamoto, and the date is October 5th, 2025. The time 4 p.m. PDT. And today's talk, I've been scurrying around trying to pull different pieces together, synthesize a wealth of information, a lot of which is coming from the public, which is good, it's healthy, and it is necessary. And I will reiterate, this is one of the positive outcomes of recent events, that is, sidestepping legacy media and even going around some of the more established so-called indie media, which, as I have expressed in other shows on other platforms, I'm skeptical of a lot of these personalities that I refer to as pop-up pundits. Nonetheless, I believe that all the incredible public information, publicly sourced information, is going to bring us to a more comprehensive understanding of what I am calling Project Charlie Kirk. Now, toward that end, I would suggest that you look at a previous talk I did with the guest, Lena Pooh. She's on the show quite often, and she came with a quite incisive spot analysis. This is only 4 days after the tragic event, 4 days after, and she was breaking it down as I was contributing, kibitzing, and adding my own little insights. And of course, I was on the Sean Atwood show immediately, almost immediately afterwards, giving my rundown. A lot of it is, in all these cases, has borne out to be true and accurate, right? Just lacking in detail, perhaps. But overall, I've been skeptical about this, what I call Operation Project Charlie Kirk, from the beginning, and I've been skeptical about the commentators, right? That's what I mean about in the title, the description here, the spectacular aftermath of the assassination itself. Spectacular in the sense that it is a spectacle. We're looking at it. It's orchestrated. It's a theatrical production. And I'm going to get to that before I end this talk today. And I'm going to compare it with the pop music industry, the movie industry, and its celebrity creation machinery, because there's not just an analogy, but they might be coming from the same source. They're just appealing to different audiences, or the overlap, the confluence of different constituencies, but it's the same message. Okay, I'll get into the details later on, but I just wanted to remind you to watch the previous show, the conversation I had with Lena Pooh, and I'm going to remind you to catch me on the Sean Atwood show. I'll be making a return visit. It was supposed to be yesterday, but something intervened, so it'll happen on Wednesday. And I'll send you the links. The people who are on my Patreon, you're going to get a notification. Those of you who want to be notified, you might subscribe so that you'll get that. I don't have the link yet. I think it's going to be on at Pacific Daylight Time Zone at 1:00, but don't hold me to it because there's a time zone difference there, and I haven't nailed it down yet, but it's going to be this Wednesday. And I'm going to be continuing this discussion, hopefully deepening it, because there's more information that comes out every day. And I will be speaking to the recent sentencing of one Sean John Combs. Who? We've already forgotten about him almost. I haven't. But I think we need to wrap that situation up and also establish the fact that it's a important development in American cultural politics where a black man of such prominence, for the most part, is able to escape punishment for all these heinous activity. I'm not talking about the lifestyle aspects. I understand about the baby oil and all the other kinky stuff that they're doing. Um, and that was part of the argument, by the way, on part of the defense that these were lifestyle issues and they're not criminal, right? But I'm just talking about the larger issue of justice with a capital J. Who gets justice in America? Is it just us? That is the people who are on the inside? Or is it people who are well positioned within the system, the political system, like I'll call him P. Diddy since that's his street name, right? Because well, I won't get into it now, but he's protecting people. He stood up, he kept them out of it, and he's going to be rewarded. And like I said early on, before anybody else, even the people with massive legal training, I said, P. Diddy, gonna skate. Now, he's still going to do some time, but compared to what he was going to be facing had he been convicted and sentenced in the way that a lot of people had hoped, he got out pretty easy. But anyway, I'm just telling you that there's a lot more to be said on that. But today I'm going to be building out the story of Operation Charlie Kirk. First of all, let me clarify what I mean by Operation Charlie Kirk, right? What I mean to imply by this is that what we have been seeing for the last few weeks and in its aftermath, including the indie media, the pop-up pundits, people who just seem to come out of nowhere and all of a sudden have 5 million Patreon subscribers. What's the hidden agenda there? There is an agenda. It ain't journalism. And by the way, I will take this time to personally apologize for referring to Katie Halper. She has a show called The Katie Halper Show. Referring to her as a journalist. One of you caught me in the comments, which is fine. You said, Katie Halper started out as a comedian, that you're always ranking on them. You're Joe Rogans and Jimmy Dore and even Bill Maher, the bloviating libtard, right? These are the bane of intelligent discussion. They come from the comedy, and I love comedy, right? If you look in the dictionary under laughter, you will see my face. And I wrote a book with laughter in the title. It's called Nervous Laughter. So I'm not jealous. I'm just trying to help us discern who is who and what is what. Katie Halper did indeed. I checked it out. Thank you for your comment. Please remark here because I read a lot, if not most or all of the comments. I'm getting a lot of comments, which is good. And I learned from it. And I even sometimes follow up on your suggestions. Someone told me hey, you might check out this movie starring Nicolas Cage called Snake Eyes, and it kind of foreshadows or prefigures what happened to another person named Kirk here. I haven't seen it yet. I might do it this evening after. I've been too wrapped up in prepping for this particular show, so I'll be able to watch this while I'm eating my dinner, perhaps. Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage just seems to have a knack. And I'm just downplaying it purposely because I know he's connected. He's read in Nicolas Cage, but he has a knack for being in these globalist type Illuminati New World Order feature films. And as you know, he's a Coppola. He's part of the Coppola bloodline, as in Francis Ford Coppola, or his daddy, the composer, the orchestrator. Is it Carmine Coppola, and there's a whole family, right? They're all hooked into Gulf and Western Paramount films. This is how they manage to make the Godfather films. He's in the wine country, California wine. He's a gentleman grape grower now, supposedly, and he had a restaurant for a while. He's part of the whole Illuminati California grape growing region scene, which includes such families as the Shrimp, the Mondavi, the Disney fan. I mean, there needs to be some work on that. That's for the future. It's also, by the way, that whole area is a place of disappearing children and teenagers and runaways and kidnappings, missing persons. All right, I'm not going to go any further than that right now. Anyway, that's his lineage. So thank you for that. Put any comments, correct me if you like. I know a lot of people aren't really used to seeing a yellow person who's articulate and whose language is English, because you're used to watching Hollywood movies where we're speaking in chop suey language. So you don't have to tell me that I'm mispronouncing a word. That's not what I'm looking for. But that's what I read into it when you tell me this type of stuff. This is what you're really saying. This is not your language. This is not your world. This is not your topic. What are you doing even wasting the effort to talk about this? But I'm saying that all these issues that we're dealing with, that I'm dealing with specifically, are central to the yellow world, my world, or the Asian world, if you like, because South Asians, Indians, are not yellow people. They might be called brown, but they are Asian, like me. But I call myself yellow, distinct from your South Asians, because who was the judge in the Sean John Combs trial who handed down the sentence? Yes, he was a South Asian. For those of you who are in the UK or the country, Canada, maybe, you refer to Asians as being Indians or South Asians. You don't see Asians as being Chinese or South Korean or the East Asians. But in America, Asians includes these groups. So when I say Asian, I don't just mean Indian or Pakistani. Anyway, the point is that who was the judge of the Sean John Combs trial? Arun Subramaniam. Yes, he went to an elite law school, Columbia Law School. And by and large, I think he did a good job. Of course, the reason why he's put in there is because if it was a black judge from the black bourgeoisie, people say, oh, well, he's prejudiced towards P. Diddy. And if it was a white judge, they'd say, well, he's prejudiced against P. So they say, well, when in doubt, we punt. We always put an Oriental dude in there. 30 years ago, to the date when Sean Diddy Combs was sentenced, was the O.J. Simpson trial. And again, another Asian was sitting on the judge's dais up there. Judge Lance Ito, one of my brothers. He was a fellow yellow. And again, it's because of the racial politics of American society. It's still with us 30 years later. Okay, it takes a yellow person to see what's going on here. And of course, you put the Asian guy in there because the public's not going to be happy either. Whatever the decisions are made, whatever sentences hand, the public's going to be irate. So you got to have an Oriental person there for a scapegoat for the public to vent all their anger and resentment. Right? And this is why you hear all this talk about the Chacoms. They don't talk about Israel, and I don't mean Israel full of the average anti-Zionist secular people that pop in. I'm talking about the ones who are like pushing the world into the brink of World War III. Those are the ones I'm talking. They won't talk about that, but they will talk incessantly about the Chacoms. And that's your John Birch Society. That's your neocons, who are mostly Jewish. I'm Jewish American. And these are your Christian Zionists and everything else. All right. That's what makes my commentary on Project or Operation Charlie Kirk unique and also valuable because, ladies and gentlemen, you know this who are in the live stream and who even bother to watch this show, all 63,000 subscribers. No, I'm not complaining. Thank you very much for your subscription. And thank you very much for your patronage. You're the one that allow me to pick up DVDs like this. This is called Assassin's Creed because I've got the first novelization of it, or one of the volumes. It's it's a novelization by a Cambridge graduate who obviously knows his classical and medieval and Renaissance cultural history. It's all in the books here. It's very high level, and this is like written for like 12 and 13-year-old. They're assimilating this material here because they're going to be the next generation of mind-controlled assassins. It's called Project Artichoke, and that brings us again around to the title of this talk, Operation Charlie Kirk. It is an operation just like Operation MK Ultra, Operation Artichoke, and all the ones that you're quite familiar with, and all the instant experts who've surfaced over the last couple of years who are writing books now on mind control and offering it to the public as if they discovered the moon. Right. And I made this point in previous talks about these video games because Assassin's Creed, and by the way, it's a Canadian Commonwealth of Canadian Ubisoft or Ubisoft. I think they're based in Montreal. That's behind this. That company warrants research, right? So instead of just recycling information that's 30 or 40 or 50, 60 years old that you put in the comments to try to educate me who's read that material a long time ago and forgot about it, well, you should stick with Candace Owens because she's the one that she's recycling. She's reading like Hollywood Babylon. Come on, man. I got that first edition of Hollywood Babylon at the Brentano's bookstore. I think it was like 1975, something like that. That's how long ago it was. Right? If she discovered it's fine. If it's new to you, great. But you are not going to be able to teach me what I've known for decades because I'm an innovator. I'm not a Johnny-come-lately, and I'm not a pop-up pundit. This is just for the newbies who happen to be tuning in. All right. So I think we clarified why I'm calling it Operation Charlie Kirk. More specifically, it's because we're finding out, you and other researchers, as well as myself, because I have a couple of independently sourced and verified contributions to make the discussion, right? You'll never see me on the Megan Kelly show, and not that I want to be. That's fine. There's usually or Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace is just a bunch of wacky women who are these body language experts or forensic psychology. These women's is crazy, right? But I watch the shows. I have to. I want to see what's going on out there. All right. But I have my own independent information that's much more incisive than any of these supposed alternative people have to offer. And that includes understanding and checking out the various intelligence operations that Charlie Kirk was involved with, and his wife, Erica Kirk. We're going to get into her. We're going to dig deep. And some of you already have. Thank you very much for your help. We're going to see some videos from some of the main contributors. Their family, there's still not very much about Charlie Kirk's mama and papa. We're learning a little bit more about the parents of Erica Kirk. That's her married name. But she's Swedish by ethnicity, and apparently her grandfather was a member of a Swedish American secret society, the Order of the Vikings. That was new to me. Okay, I'll have to check into that. I wouldn't be surprised if they had these other more well-known secret society affiliations that I've already talked about. And by the way, I brought when we were talking about Utah and even Idaho, I brought the Freemasonic connection in from day one. As soon as I went on there, I said, we got to start looking there. Now it's part of the commonplace understanding that there's some sort of connection there. All right. So we're looking at the friends, we're looking at the family, we're looking at organizational links, right? And importantly, professional ties, connections, institutional ties, schools, including K through 12, high school, right? Including high school prep school, because Erica, I didn't write her name down. It's a Swedish name. Went to a Jesuit school, right? So maybe there's a Jesuit connection there that needs to be explored, right? But she went to a prep school. It costs money to go to prep school. I looked at their website. I looked at some of their literature, their advertising, and I saw that one of her family members, I don't think it was her mother, it might have been an aunt, was actively involved in that particular school. I have it here in my file folder. I didn't put it in my notes. I don't want to get bogged too much in details. Suffice to say that she came out of that, and they're Roman Catholic too. All right, just to clarify that. So the schooling, and that includes college. I think she started out at Arizona State University, and then she went to Regis College, which is another Jesuit affiliated college or university. And I think she got a master's degree in legal studies, something like that. I didn't write, I have it again in my biographical folder, but I didn't put the note down there. But she continued her connection with the church. I know, it was Liberty College. That's an important institution affiliation that hasn't been fully explored. From what, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can tell me that there's other investigators that have looked at that connection, but it's an important one. It might be a key connection in trying to understand Operation Charlie Kirk, Liberty University. I'll get to that in a moment. But first of all, let's start off with a heartwarming confection, right?
Our fourth runner-up, Paradise Valley, Lexi Lar. The third runner-up, South Phoenix, Tanya Mendez. Our second runner-up, North Scottsdale, Brittany Birdie. And our final two, please come forward. The next name I will read is the first runner-up. The first runner-up is a very important position because in any event that the winner cannot fulfill her duties, including winning Miss USA, the first runner-up will take over. The first runner-up, Scottsdale, Caitlin Willenchik. That means your new Miss Arizona USA 2012 is Erica Franzve.
Erica Franzbay was surprise, 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 as Gomer Pyle was wont to say. And most of you in the chat room, I was looking at some of the comments, they're really funny. You know that that pageant is owned by who? Yes, the current president of the United States of America, Donald John Trump. He loved those meat displays. That's not my phrase. That was one of you said that. He's the owner of it. That's how he finds girlfriends and wives and mistresses. Not just him. I'm talking about people on that level, right? The rest of the suckers are looking on TikTok. The app Donald Trump buys entire. He makes a business venture into finding women. So anyway, you know probably more of the backstory of that. She was Miss Arizona in 2012. And the story goes that this Charlie Kirk tells it himself. He met his future wife at some sort of conservative event, and they fell in love. And this is what he told his little daughter, whose face is never shown, by the way, as it's seen or as it's shown or not shown. The children's is never shown full face to the camera, video camera, or in still shots. Right, that's pretty rare, even amongst celebrities. I mean, even when the king of pop, Michael Jackson, would take his children out in public, he'd put little bags on their head. But even then, we got some pictures of them. I'm not saying that's good. I'm just saying that it's kind of weird that you can't find any photos or videos of Charlie and Erica Kirk's chilling. Right. And, you know, whether they want to keep it private, that's their prerogative. They're the parents. But I'm not the only one that's kind of suspicious of that type of presentation. Let's say it. And it is a presentation. It's a theatrical presentation. Even if they showed the children's face, it's meant to convey the notion of this tight-knit nuclear family that's so beleaguered by all these baleful forces from GLBTQ to DEI and everything else that Charlie Kirk was being tutored to utter in order for him to build his career as the future savior of the Republican Party and of conservative politics. He was being groomed for that at a very young age. He was a teenager. Just like the shooter that took him down was being groomed as well. And now these other shooters that have been popping up, they're part of another parallel operation. They have different compartmentalized operations. One is meant to create Charlie Kirk's and J.D. Vance types and to become judges a la George Soros creations, and they get into elective office, they go into education, they're recruited, and they're groomed. Now, there's sometimes there are individuals that manage to be just kind of slip through somehow. I think I was one of those people, but I was identified and targeted very early on, as I told you before. I was in the very first academic decathlon held in Orange County. It started in Orange County, California, with a guy named Dr. Robert Peterson. And I was in the very first one. Do you think it's just like a friendly comp? No, they wanted to see the little kids, the little children like me. I was in high school to see how this Oriental boy could be deployed somewhere into the system, depending on the currents, the political and cultural currents, right? And I went through all the different stages, which I've told you about in other circumstances, so I don't need to belabor the point here. So let's look at a further level of understanding of Erica Lundva. I'm not getting her name right. It's Swedish. And that's Scottsdale, Arizona. And for those of you who are not familiar with the area, like you're overseas, that's fine. Or you're in another part of the country, this is one of the hottest, even now, not just temperature hot, but one of the fastest growing regions in the US, especially, I think it started picking up in the 60s and 70s and kept on growing apace. And the reason why is a lot of tech moved in. You got at least two major public universities, University of Arizona and Arizona State. They're both, for those of you who are not familiar with college athletics, always rated really high NCAA Division One sports, football and basketball. Right. I followed University of Arizona. Lute Olson is one of my all-time favorite basketball coaches at the collegiate level. And of course, the football teams, Arizona, I won't get into it, but you get the point. And as a result, there's a thriving party culture amongst the undergraduates, which I assume would have included Erika Lundva and her cohorts. So there might be this is kind of a little bit before everybody went on TikTok and Facebook and Buttface and all the other social medias, a little bit before. So there might not be a lot of material, but I'm sure if someone wanted to dig, they'll find out something. I don't know if she was a party girl or not. And on that theme, most of you already know, but I will repeat for those of you who are not aware of this, but Arizona State University in Tempe is it in Tempe or is it Tucson? I keep getting them mixed up. I've been to both places. I think the Arizona State is in Tempe. University of Arizona is in Tucson. I might get them mixed up. But the point is that Arizona State, I know for sure, because I used to hear this for years, all the time, that Arizona State was the number one party school in America, college, university, right? You get into Arizona State and you're going to just be pledged into the fraternities, sororities, do a lot of drinking, a lot of screwing. And supposedly, I don't know where this information came from, but supposedly it has the highest rate of STDs of all American colleges. You know the story, right? I think one of the Girls Gone Wild or porn movies were made at Arizona State because it's hot. There's a lot of outdoor activity in the swimming pool and the sauna and women's in bikinis and little boys in jock straps, right? Mostly white. They're like, I think, school for that area we're talking about, Scottsdale area is upper middle class, and it's they're maybe about 5% Asian, not very many blacks. I don't know how many percentage of Latinos. There's a lot. Arizona historically had a very high percentage of Mexican American people living in the state in general, but probably not so much Scottsdale. That's a white suburb enclave, right? In other words, the type of demographics that Erika Lundva's parents would fill, who could make enough money to send her to a private school, a Jesuit school. And as it turns out, this is indeed the case. Her mother worked for the government, the U.S. government. Erika Lundva herself, or by then Erika Kirk herself, says her mother, they moved to Arizona in specific because her mama was starting to work for the government. Specifically, what type of government work was she doing? Was it something related to the DOD, for example? Speaking of which, her daddy, and there's not much information about him. So you got your work cut out for you. her daddy has some sort of connections with the defense industry, more specifically to the government of Israel. Now, I've read some sources say that that's false information, but there's a sort of a disinformation and information counter war going on there. So you decide, you find out the sources, you find the receipts, you provide them. I'm just saying this is what's being bandied about on the interweb. All right, so Erica Kirk or Lundva did not come out of nowhere. She came out of a milieu, as I like to say. None of these people are organic. You might be organic and think that everybody else comes up the hard way. But no, some people have it a little bit easier. No, they're called industry plants, which we'll get into momentarily or presently. So let's just take a look for those of you, and you can find this on your own, so I'm not going to run this for more than a few seconds. Get a little glimpse of what life is like in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is part of greater Phoenix area, Tempe, Scottsdale. It all kind of runs together. I mean, I've been there more than a few times. I really can't tell what city I'm in when I'm over. That's kind of like Orange County. You don't know when you cross over from Newport Beach into Huntington. You kind of know you have a cognitive map, but you're not really sure because it all kind of runs together.
Arizona has been one of the hottest relocation destinations across the U.S. for a few years now, and certainly in the state of Arizona. And over the last 4 to 5 years, this city has become extremely popular. Now, for decades, the Scottsdale area has been really well known for a place to retire. But for us locals, we knew better. And more recently, well, it's been found out. And there have been thousands of people flocking to Scottsdale to make it their home. We have incredible art, entertainment, dining, nightlife, and outdoor activities. We also have tons of things like farmers markets and sports, all right at your fingertips. And this has attracted a lot of young professionals and families to the area, as well as those retirees who have been coming here for decades. And today, we're going to explore the area and find out why so many people are choosing Scottsdale to relocate to and why you might want to choose it too. I'm Sean Shackleton, your
Well, I can tell you why people are relocating there. It's largely because of this sort of shadow government contractor infrastructure that's grown rapidly during the post-war period. Because it wasn't that long ago, that whole area was relatively, quote unquote, underdeveloped. So the elite said, we're going to move some of our operations out to the far west. Arizona is one of them. Also, New Mexico. It's not a coincidence that Jeffrey Epstein has or had Zorro Ranch located there. You know, they're adjacent states. It's a globalist outpost, just like Utah and Idaho, as I mentioned in previous talks. Right? Utah Valley College, it's not just this pristine outdoor, it is, but underneath it is the national security state employment infrastructure, including artichoke people, that is assassins in wait, ready to be mobilized when necessary, when needed. Okay, it's all U.S. Air Force, DOD, even Navy, Naval Intelligence, hooked up. It's all part of this larger, quote unquote, New World Order grid. That is Arizona. That's Scottsdale, right? The pop-up pundits, they're not really talking about the American Southwest in the substantive, not even alluding to it. But it's so important. It's more than New York City. It's more than Los Angeles. It's more than Seattle, microwave headquarters, Boeing headquarters, the American Southwest. And by the way, as I was prepping for this class, or not class, but for the session today, I was reminded, hey, is my friend and colleague, Sean Atwood, he was in Arizona when he became like the middle of the whole party scene. He might even, I'm going to ask him when I'm on the show on Wednesday. Hey, did you ever run into Erica Lundva? Because she was probably around there partying when he was out there partying in Tempe. That's where the school is. Maybe she had transferred by that time. Supposedly she went to Regis College to play basketball or something like that. Or maybe the party scene at Arizona State was a little bit too nasty for her life. I don't know what the reason is. We'll find out eventually. But anyway, the point is that Sean Atwood knows this milieu very well. He knows it from the inside out. If you haven't read his book called Party Time, right? Heavy recreational, quote unquote, drug use related to the university. And of course, all the techies that live there and all the pervs and the gangsters from the five families back east. They're all there, man. That's why this state is growing so quickly. Right. So that's your neighbor. On the face of it, they have the 2.5 chillins in the family picture, and they have this resume that looks like the standard package or the idealized package of the American household, but there's all kinds of weirdness behind the curtain. Okay, so let's take a more lighthearted look at the status or stature of Arizona State University with this short video here. This is where Erica Lundva went to school. Majoring, I think, in political science. She probably had her eye on a law career, something like that.
Junk mail. Well, I got accepted to Arizona State.
My film was the biggest hit in Groff Community College history. I got a check plus. That's like a C at Arizona State.
A parent is the one person who is supposed to make their kid think they can do anything. Says they're beautiful even when they're ugly. Thinks they're smart even when they go to Arizona State. Let the rest of the world tear your kid down. Your job is to support him no matter what.
What if Mike Ross never went to Harvard at all? What if he just went to some crappy third-tier law school like Fordham or Arizona State?
Yeah, hey, bro. Yeah, no, I'll see you at the party. I'm not gonna study for the bar. Damn straight, that's right. Bros before hoes. Oh, yeah, you know. All right, that's enough.
Why can't you just say please? Hey, must be the money! Hey, Sam, why do you have a duffel bag that says Arizona State?
Because that's where I went to school.
What, you went to Arizona State?
Yeah, why?
Oh, man, that's why we lost the case.
Hello?
Good dicks.
Arizona State. Hey, how many times you been on a hitch boat?
Did you write your dissertation on the collected works of Red Bull?
Yeah, I did. I got an A on it.
So do you say Arizona State University, or do you just say HPVU?
You're on Liberty.
It's a little short compilation of clips making fun of Arizona State University. And those of us who come out of the higher education world, it's common knowledge. That's it. I mean, they were listed. I have the article in my file here. They were listed as the #1 party school back in 1985 or something. I can't remember the exact day, but that doesn't matter. But they were listed in Playboy magazine as the #1 party school in the country. And then they hired, the reputation was so bad, they hired some guy from the Ivy League, and he came in there and cleaned houses and said, well, we're going to get research one, respectability, and bring some, build up our reputation. So I guess they no longer have that distinction as being the #1 party school in the country. Anyway, that's Erica Lundva, right? And knowing that helps us understand the fabricated nature of her persona and her being matched with one Charlie Kirk. It's a theatrical production. just like a beauty pageant, right? I'm not making it up. You've seen the clips here. So, okay, moving on. I mentioned at the earlier stage of this talk, one of the institutional affiliations that has not been adequately recognized, let alone addressed by all the pop-up pundits, is the fact that she got her master's degree at Liberty University. And I said, well, I know, I mean, I've never been there. It's in Lynchburg, Virginia, but I know about it because I studied the right-wing politics for ages, right? I have, by now, I think you know that my values politically are conservative. I don't know about culturally, but my overall ideological position is way out of whack compared to the typical person you find at the university. All right, let's put it that way. So I was very much interested in all these right-wing forces that were beginning to bubble to the surface during the 70s and 80s and beyond. They became institutionalized by the 90s, right? I saw them as a political threat to American republicanism with a small r, because they took over the Republican Party eventually. And they didn't, I'm talking about the moral majority. And the moral majority organization is most associated with Reverend Jerry Falwell, for those of you who don't remember or don't have any knowledge of it. Right? I do. I lived through the era and I studied it and I wrote about it and I warned against it. Just like I warned against what's now called GLBTQ and weaponized multiculturalism. And I warned about that long before these other characters, synthetic characters, were put forth and put forward and are now on indie media as guests and as experts and have had huge careers being custom built for them. All right, so I'm just saying that I know my Shinola. So Jerry Falwell, moral majority, and the third leg of the tripod is Liberty University. He founded or co-founded his own institution of higher education as a rebuke against the secularized public university and even divinity schools, which had gone gay and GLBTQ and politically correct. Harvard Divinity School, Yale, they had very strong divinity schools once upon a time. Then they went queer. They went sideways. They went social justice. In their original incarnation, they were the embodiment of true social justice. But they got captured, they got occupied, and they started producing clergymen who says, well, maybe Jesus was not divine after all. Right? And these guys are supposed to be clergymen. Right? This is not what John Yale or John Harvard had in mind but these institutions, like any other, are vulnerable to being captured by money and influence. All right. Speaking of which, Liberty University from the get-go was captured by guess which foreign actor? Which foreign nation state? Do you think Liberty University, the moral majority, the Christian Zionists, the so-called evangelicals? What country do you think captured them? Well, if you say Israel, you would be correct. And if you say Israel, that means you've been paying attention to all the furor, the sound and fury that is now issuing forth on indie media. And I have collected all the articles, statements, public, even after Jerry Falwell died. I think he went to heaven in 2007, roughly around. He's been gone quite a while. And his son took over. Jerry Falwell Jr. took over, which I'll get to in a moment. But all these statements over and over talk about, oh, yeah, we are so so locked into the divine mission of the state of Israel. We support it wholeheartedly. I mean, over and over. You look it up for yourself. It's all there. That's Jerry Falwell. That's to this very day. So who went to school there again to get a master's degree in judicial studies or legal studies? Erica Lundva. Yes, indeed. So she brought together her conservative Catholicism with its, I think the denomination is Baptist, if I'm not mistaken, Liberty University. But it's in Virginia. So this is also where the Reagan Revolution intersects with what's called the belief community, right? And there were certain figureheads. One guy's named David Quo, who was the insider. Then he split and he wrote a tell-all about it. I read the books on it. And they made that part, the Republican Party, the Conservative Party, made it part of their political strategy to retake power in American politics and economy. So why is this important now in 2025? Because what we were seeing in the person of Charlie Kirk and Turning Point America is the moral majority 2.0. It's the same shoes, but it's a different pair of socks, or it's the same socks and a different pair of shoes. It's been updated and retooled and revived for a new generation that does not have a historical memory of the Jerry Falwell and the moral majority. Right? He was very explicit about gay, quote unquote, gay marriage and his condemnation of homosexuality, even though there are all kinds of those ministers who were involved in all kinds of non-standard sexual practices and preferences, just as there are now in both sides of the aisle. Right? How do you think they get there in the first place? They have to be possessed by the most significant aphrodisiac known to human beings, as Dr. Heinz Kissinger identified. He said that's power. Power is the strongest aphrodisiac. So that's why these guys are always running around, and the women too, running with hot pants and always getting themselves in troubles and compromised, because that is their aphrodisiac. So here's Dr. Jerry Falwell talking about his vision for this Baptist university that's going to be free of all the taint of the secular world. Of course, its own lock, stock, and barrel by now, the Lichotniks, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Starker from Philadelphia. He is a Starker. Look that up in Leo Roston's Joy of Yiddish. Starker. It's a punk. It's a thug. Listen to his speech pattern. He talks like a Philadelphia Starker, right? Look at it from a cultural forensics standpoint. Don't look at him as the leader of Israel. Look at him from some street guy from Philadelphia who was groomed by Heinz Kissinger and sent to Israel in order to take power as a proxy for the U.S. That's why it's been proven to be impossible for the U.S. political establishment to shake themselves free, because it's like would be like cutting off their own arm. That's Benjamin Netanyahu, and that's not his real name. He pretends to be Israeli, but he's actually an American. He's a Starka in Yiddish. And by the way, the Yiddish-speaking people, when they in Israel, they were looked down on. The descendants of the Holocaust were looked down upon by the Jewish establishment. The people who were native there, who were Jews, also in Arabic speak, they were looked on. But I mean, these people talk about anti-Semitism are the most anti-Semitic people around. They hate their own people. And maybe anti-Semitism is just an expression of their own hate. Boy, they need some serious self-psychoanalysis from one of their own, Rabbi Sigmund Freud. So here's Jerry Falwell of the moral majority, so-called. That's called begging the question, calling yourself the moral majority. Yeah, and the right. And Charlie Kirk, Liberty University, Erica Lundva. See how it connects historically? Good. This is a very important point. You're not going to see this on the pop-up pundit shows until after they have their people watch Professor Hamamoto's channel. They have their people watching I see my talking points showing up on these huge, massive TubeU shows. I see it now. I know where it's coming from. That's okay, though, as long as the message gets out. But here's our friend, Dr. Jerry Falwell.
We're standing on the ground that for 3 years we have prayed that will one day be the site of the greatest Christian school in the world. We prayed that way. We believe God gave us this mountain for that purpose.
There's no one with more faith, more compassion, more vision, more virtue, more determination, more confidence than Jerry Falwell. A man who loved God with all of his heart and who loved people with all of his heart.
What would I try to do if I thought I might succeed? Well, I thought I might win my city for Christ, Lynchburg. God will increase your vision, young people, and you need to get a vision now. I don't want you to just be a bench warmer. I want you to be on the playing field of life. God has bigger plans for you than you have for yourself. I've said to these young people repeatedly, and I say it again to you today, you are the hope of America. When you leave the graduation platform of liberty, I want you to leave it running. Leave it running with a vision burning in your soul. You're going to change this world for Christ. I had a vision to build a Christian educational institution where the Christian worldview was mutually agreed upon. I also had a vision that we would compare favorably with everything Notre Dame, Brigham Young do so well with Mormon and Roman Catholic kids, a world-class institution. And everyone here knows what my burning vision is, to build a distinctively Christian university with 25,000 resident students, 25,000 external students. The buildings in this 4,000-acre campus are nothing.
Well, much of Dr. Falwell's vision has come to pass, but not without a significant investment on the part of the state of Israel. In fact, they were in serious financial straits, and all of a sudden, financial support started coming in. And I guess part of the deal was, hey, Dr. Falwell, from here on out, you're going to belong to our PR machinery, and we know that you have a very important hook into the Republican establishment in Washington, D.C. via the Reagan Revolution in its so-called Southern strategy to reach out to the average everyday American, the God-fearing Christian American, right? In some of these underserved areas outside of the urban areas, meaning white, right? Which is cool, right? I'm not against any of that agenda. I subscribe to it. But it's not pure in its intention. The agenda is to support a foreign political entity and its policies of control, and which are not only for their country, but to control Americans, right? And I'm not the only one these days to maintain this position. Most Americans in recent polls are aware of the situation thanks to you sharing all this programming or deprogramming, more properly speaking. We're hip to the game. Now, I'm not going to celebrate and say that the PR war has been won by we the people, but Israel is limping along. You know, it won't be long before Ben Shapiro has to be swapped out for somebody else, right? But I could see him coming from miles away. I could see the way he was being built up. He'd make the rounds on all the shows, Glenn Beck, Alex Jones. He's the anointed prince. And then he had to, at a certain point, announce himself and who he works for. Same with Dennis Prager, so-called Prager University. You notice how universities are a very important institutional means of political control? Yeah, I worked at one or more than one for decades. And that's what they're about at bottom. So it's a continual struggle. I welcome it. So do you. Now let me finish up the storyline, Jerry Falwell. Right? This is like one of them horror movies where you think it's over and then the dead body comes jumping up again and starts stabbing some more. Right? But Jerry Falwell Jr. took control of Liberty University after his daddy done died. And apparently he did not hew to the moral values of the Baptist church. And he got married to a woman who was groomed for holy matrimony and matched up to him. And it turned out that they had a really kinky, steamy sex life. But it so happened that he was the president of Liberty University, a church that's grounded on moral principles of Christian family life. So this is a story that you can look it up yourself. There's lots of material on Tubi, but you might not be aware of it. So I'll share with you a few seconds.
And at the center of the sex scandal that led to the downfall of Jerry Falwell Jr.'s breaking his silence. In his first TV interview, he claims the former president of the conservative Christian Liberty University encouraged him to sleep with his wife, telling him to, quote, go for it. Stephen Fabian has more.
The former pool boy who had an affair with Jerry Falwell Jr.'s wife is giving his first TV interview today, and the story he tells is shocking. He says he met Jerry and Becky Falwell when he was working at the famous Fontainebleau Hotel in Miami.
I noticed this woman behind me staring at me, and she was noticeably drunk. And she was just flirting with me, and then we started flirting back and forth. And then towards the end of my work shift, she's like, hey, would you want to go back to my hotel room? And as a single 20-year-old, I'm like, yeah, of course. And then she's like, but my husband wants to watch.
Giancarlo Granda tells George Stephanopoulos that when he entered the hotel room with Becky, Jerry Falwell was already there.
He was laying on the bed, he was drunk, and he was giggling. And again, I'm kind of weirded out at this moment. And I said, hey, if at any point you get jealous or you want me to back off, just let me know and I'll walk out of here. He's like, no, just go for it.
He said Becky revealed that on the previous night, she and her husband had been to a well-known swingers club, Miami Velvet.
And they said it was kind of gross because there's too many people and they wanted a more intimate session.
The former pool boy says the affair continued for several years with get-togethers at a high-end golf resort.
Wow. I had no idea, ladies and gentlemen. I must have been living a sheltered life. Oh, man. What was that called? The Velvet Swing or whatever? I wonder if they saw Marco Rubio there at the swing club. No, he goes to all male facilities or clubs, from what I understand. All right. So now, just to be fair, I want you to know that I don't want to lump Jerry Falwell Jr. or Sr. or the whole Liberty University movement. I don't want to lump it in with the evangelical movement as a whole. In fact, they feel quite betrayed by people like him who have tarnished the reputation of the evangelical movement. And I came across this one video. I'll only show you a bit of it, of these two gentlemen talking about this history that I just reviewed for you. And I encourage you to look at the whole talk. I think it's about an hour long. And I watched the whole conversation. They knew their material. They were quite well informed on the whole history, as I have try to encapsulate for you. These are the real Christian evangelicals.
For Israel, which has, I believe, 7 million members, tons and tons of political donations there, which obviously are shuttled to politicians, which is led by Hagee. The question is, right, to what degree does this serve, one, America, or two, American evangelicals? It's effectively vote for us because we can get America to do things for us.
Okay, you can watch that on your own. If I remember, I'll put the link in here. But I just wanted to ensure you that there is a vital Christian evangelical tradition. I'm not a part of it as such, but I don't want to lump them all in there because there are some. The majority of people who are involved are decent. They're not pervies like Jerry Falwell Jr. Okay. So what I also, to continue with Erica Kirk now, after she got married, or maybe before she got married, she started one of these humanitarian organizations, quote unquote, kind of like, like the Clinton Foundation, Solve World Hunger, take care of homeless kitty cats, save the whales, feed the trees, right? Anyway, I don't mean to parody that because a lot of the people who are involved that are sincere about it, and that's how they're so successful, the leadership so successful in selling it to the public. We're becoming less and less gullible now. That's good. Right? Apparently, Erica Kirk, or Lundva, she might have been married, started one of these humanitarian organization called Romanian Orphans, something like, I can't remember what it is, but and you'll have to confirm this because I haven't had the chance to research it beyond a couple of sources, but apparently they have declared the Romanian government have declared her persona non grata because of her suspected involvement with, let's call it, the sudden disappearance of Romanian orphans. All right, and here's a little clip that alludes to this sordid point of biographical point that needs to be talked about when we deal with Operation Charlie Kirk. What was it really about, and what was Erica Kirk's role in it? I'm beginning to think that she was the controller and that he was the dupe. He came in as a teenage virgin, and this Miss Arizona comes on to him and say, let's make some babies. Combine that with his political aspirations, and some guy told him, you don't need college, let us pave the way for your greatness, Charlie Kirk. We'll live and build an organization called Turning Point America around your persona. And we will pay, Turning Point America will pay for your marriage between you and the former Miss Arizona. And that's indeed what happened, by the way. Turning Point America paid for that. I don't know who paid for that spectacle. At the arena, 60,000 people reportedly showed up on a moment's notice when people should be wearing black and rending their garments and crying and fasting in some traditions for weeks. But here they are having a country music gospel concert. That's what I'm alluding to when I say the spectacle of in the aftermath. So here's a little clip for you to think about. It was called Romanian Angels. These are articles that have been written. You can track them down. All right. I'm sure more material will begin to appear over the next few days. And maybe you, if you're interested, can follow up on this. Now, among the first people, and he happens to be a fellow yellow, which is pretty rare, as I always tell you. His name's James Lee, L.I., who tipped me off to what Erica Kirk and her family might what they might really be about. And this is I don't know, about 15-minute piece. You could find it on X. Look under James Lee, Erica Kirk. And he gives a sort of an overview of her and her family and asks questions that need to be addressed.
I wasn't going to talk about this, but now it's just gotten too weird, too dark. I don't know. There's just something very off about Erica Kirk.
There is a lot of content to be had, and we have so many amazing things down the pipeline that we are working on currently that will
unveil in due time.
I am so excited.
Yeah.
It's like, lady, didn't your husband just get his face blown off like 2 seconds ago? And not to be insensitive about it, but everyone's thinking it. No one wants to be the asshole. No one wants to say it. Everyone's thinking it.
Hey, he said it. I didn't. And just for the record, a lot of people have been talking about Erica Kirk for a few weeks now. I didn't really want to do it because I thought it was a little too soon, a little insensitive, but now I think I have to because the evidence regarding her past is at this point too overwhelming. So let's get into it. Starting at the very beginning, Erica was born Erica Lane Fronsvie. Her yearbook quote reads, "Leaders are made, they are not born." Now keep that in mind as we dive deeper here. Her father, Kent Fronsvie, as reported by Ron Unz, once chaired the Israel division of the arms corporation Raytheon, linking her family directly to Israel's military-industrial complex. Just a coincidence, I am sure. And then in an interview from a few years ago, Erica stated that the reason she moved to Arizona was because her mother was, quote, getting involved with the government.
She was getting involved with the government, so Homeland Security and Department of Defense.
Mother in Homeland Security and Defense, father supplied weapons to Israel. Just another nice coincidence there. Those will keep piling up. As you can see here in 2012, she won a beauty pageant owned by Donald Trump and then became Miss Arizona. After that, she tried to get into entertainment. She appeared in some music videos, this one from a country music band. But then at age 23, she does something kind of interesting, which is to set up an evangelical Christian organization called Everyday Heroes Like You, which developed a program called Romanian Angels, which advocated for adoptions, family reunifications, and deinstitutionalization policies for orphan children. And it operated from about 2011 to 2015. Those dates are important, which I'll get back to in a second. But yeah, I don't know. This whole thing seems kind of like a weird thing to do, to go to Romania to start a charity. This next part is where it gets super dark. According to Unz, behind the slogan, "Helping God's Forgotten Children Find Wings," her organization was actually suspected of having been involved in child trafficking. Whoa, yeah, those are some heavy claims. So,
well, it goes on a little bit longer. You can watch it on your own. It, to me, sounds like an intelligence operation, as in Operation Charlie Kirk. Get it? All right. Now, to wrap it up, I alluded to the parallels with these operations or these projects around certain personalities. Some of them run indie media organizations even. And I know we have some personality fanboys, people who never they they get their knickers in a twist whenever I say anything critical about their favorite gal or gals, because I don't discriminate. I call BS on whatever I see out there that seems to fit the profile. Right. But I made the connection between the film industry, the music business, and politics, contemporary politics. And this one gentleman here refers to them as industry plants. That is, they are creations, synthetic creations, and they are inserted or planted into the structure, into the system. And people like you and me eat it up. We stream it into our ears. We listen to Drake or David, the guy whose Tesla there was like a 15-year-old Mexican girl in it, rotting. Or whoever else is out there, or Sean John Combs. Like, who does he work for? That's the real question. Anyway, that's another talk. So you got the music, but you got the movie industry. Most of us know, okay. Hey, you know the latest smut, right? Nicole Kidman is getting divorced from Keith Urban. You know, with a name like Keith Urban, you would think that he'd be playing black music, right? No, but he's a country music star. You like that joke? I wrote it myself. Now you can see why I'm not a retread comedian with my own news and opinion show like a Joe Rogan. But I don't need, unlike him, I don't need writers or like Jimmy Dore or these guys. I'm my own writer. I have an alter ego. His name's Shlomo Hamamoto that writes all my material. That's me. All right, Keith Urban, country music. Nicole Kidman, Splitsville. That was an industry plant. One from the music world, country music, and one from the movie world. They came together. They held it together for 19 years. Or they didn't. That was part of the pretense. Turns out P. Diddy, very same situation. He's industry plant. He's planted by Clive Davis. And his sexual habits were very much like Jerry Falwell Jr. He liked to have people come in and do his manly job with his woman and say, "Oh, Cassie, baby, I'm going to sit behind the curtain and I'm going to watch. Go ahead, Mr. Frozen Meat Locker. Get down with my Cassie Ventura." By the way, she's an Oriental girl, too. They code her as black. But like I keep saying, there's like Asian people all up in this world here that are always kind of put off to the side for reasons that I'll get into later. I think it goes back to the fact that the opium merchants of Shanghai got kicked out by the Chinamen. They didn't like that. That's why they keep talking about the Chaka, because they want it back. I'm talking about the Sassoon bloodline. I'm talking about the Kaduri bloodline. These are Jews of Shanghai who they were Baghdadi Iraqi Jews who went there and created a whole opium empire, which allowed the British Empire that they work with to launch not one but two opium wars to take over the country. But the Chinamen kicked their asses out and stole their shit. Do you understand that? And they remember that and they want it back. So they got the Epoch Times to write all kinds of propaganda about the Chacoms. And they're not my friends necessarily, but I'm saying that there's all these different currents that are not what they seem. Do you understand? I'm going to do a talk on the Sassoon bloodlines of Baghdad and how they locked up the heroin trade and how they are connected to the Purdue Pharma people, right? Who created the American opioid crisis. It's being blamed on the Chinese with all their precursor chemicals being smuggled, and they are doing that, into America and hooking up with the Mexican cartels. But it was a Sackler family that's responsible for the opioid epidemic. And there's a straight line that connects the degeneration of American society with their progenitors, the Sassoon and the Kaduri of Shanghai. And again, I'm just telling you because the yellow people are at the center of all these historical moments. And that's why you won't see me on the main gynecological Kelly show or any of these other characters because they wouldn't know what to do with me. They grew up watching Mr. fucking Miyagi. So that's their mindset, right? Anyway, I'm blowing that out. And we're going to move ahead. And I'm going to conclude with one of my black brothers breaking it down about this whole phenomenon of industry plants. This is what we're seeing, you know this, in music, film, but this is what we're seeing in the political world. Now, we're talking about Charlie Kirk, specifically now, and Erica Kirk, and the whole Operation Charlie Kirk, yeah? But this principle, this concept, this insight is applicable to politics in general. And as we pull away the whole charade, or charade if you prefer, we break through that. You notice how whenever there's some kind of play going on, then it's kabuki. It's kabuki. If the yellow man is pulling the wool, it's kabuki. But let's call it's a puppet show. It's Punch and Judy. When the yellow man, it's sneaky. Oh, that's kabuki theater. No. Let's go with the Western tradition, man. This is total puppet show. This is the industry plan. So let's see how he breaks it down. It's a very good job here. And again, you can find this on TubeView.
When an artist blows up overnight, the internet does what the internet does best. The term industry plant gets thrown around so much now that, it's hard to even know what it means anymore. See, there's levels to this. And let's start with the ones who hide it best. The organic.
Step on the glass. Staple your tongue.
These are the artists who still need you to believe that they started from nothing. The story has to feel real. The struggle, the discovery, the breakthrough, the indie darlings who got lucky with a viral moment. But if you look closer, their bedroom is in a $1 million house that their parents own, or that viral moment was coordinated by PR agents and label executives. They keep the aesthetics of DIY, but behind the scenes, there was professional management going on the whole time, even before you knew their name. Artists like Billie Eilish.
I've wanted to do this like my whole life, so I'm a little shaky.
Now, she's talented, but the whole "we recorded Ocean Eyes in my brother's bedroom" thing, that's not the whole story. What they don't mention is Phineas was already working in the music industry. Their mom was an actress, their dad was in bands, they grew up in LA, already around the entertainment industry. Billie was even homeschooled specifically so she could pursue music.
You grew up homeschooled?
Yeah.
Did that shape who you are and who you will be? Because
yeah.
And by the time Ocean Eyes dropped, Phineas had already written and produced for other artists. He had a manager, he understood how the machine worked. Interscope didn't just stumble on him on SoundCloud. The setup was already there. See, there was this guy named Danny Rukerson who became her manager. And Danny was business partners with Brandon Goodman. And Brandon managed Fall Out Boy. So Billie already had deep industry connections from the start. See, the organic plant, they're the smartest plays because they keep the indie credibility while having major label resources. They play it cool. That's not the case with level 2.
So he breaks it down to 5 different levels, and you'll be able to recognize, maybe not the individual artists, but you'll be able to recognize the patterns. So I'm saying that we need to practice such discernment when we're dealing with all these figures that are being foisted upon us, like a Billie Eilish or whoever, or David, the 15 or 20-year-old guy who's now on the run, or he disappeared, whose Tesla, there was a Mexican girl, teenager. He was probably having a relationship with her when she was only 12 years old, beginning, doing it online on a cell phone. with TikTok or DMing or whatever it is. We're still trying to find out what happened. He is an industry plant. Supposedly, he was just frustrated with getting his music copyright struck on TubeU, so he started doing his own music, and he started singing along and doing all these backing tracks to it. And before you know it, he became a YouTube star on the come up, a TikTok creation. And then before you know it, he had hundreds of thousands of teenage girls wetting their pants for David. And one of these girls turned up. I'm not saying he's involved, but one of his fans turned up dead in his Tesla. All right. Same with Justin Bieber. The story is that he was playing guitar. Oh, baby, baby. On his guitar. He was on TubeU when he was 10 years old, something like that. And Scooter Braun was online 12 o'clock masturbating to videos of 10-year-old boys playing guitar. And he became his manager. I wonder if he's a Zyocon like these other managers, the ones that behind Billie Eilish and whoever the other synthetic people. They're like the Clive Davises of 2025. And they'd be pimping out all these very talented young people and say, sign on the dotted line and you're going to be bigger than P. Diddy. All right. So it's the same formula, let's call it that, in the area of politics and in as it pertains to Operation Charlie Kirk. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure being with you this Sunday afternoon, evening. I'll be back with you on Wednesday on the Sean Atwood Show. I'm sure we're going to have a very interesting discussion that I'll share with Mr. Atwood. And then I'll be back for my regular show on Sunday, God willing. Thank you very much for your indulgence, for your patience. Feel free to make your comments here. I read them, I benefit from them. And I want to conclude again by thanking the Patreon people that allow me to buy this material so I can keep filtering through it and synthesizing into something understandable so that we can take back the American Republic and create real culture on our own without all these people playing these mind games on us, and elect our own truly representative government, not these characters like J.D. Vance, who has this book called Hillbilly Elegy written by a team of PR experts, and all of a sudden he becomes vice president of the United States, possibly president of the United States, or Obama before him, who had 2 books written for him by his handlers. When are we going to learn? Well, I'll answer my own question. We learning fast. Our learning curve is shot straight up. So congratulations, but don't let up. Don't stop. Don't stop till you get enough, as Michael Jackson said. And we can never get enough of freedom, autonomy, and unity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Peace out.